All right, Kaney, I've known you a long time. Maybe some would say too long.
Long enough.
Um,
It's come full circle.
it has come full circle. You know, you had your stint with Sonar.
Yeah. I'm a
You've been around
proud
the
member of the Sonar Alumni Network.
and we're very proud to have you that, and we're proud of our alums. Like 70% of your go-to-market team.
That's right. That's right. Hey, look, Craig, you built a great team. I mean,
they just don't work here anymore.
I will tell you, it's fun to joke about this, but one of my favorite parts of the week so far was you talking to your dad.
Yeah.
And just we talked about legacy, and it's so, your entrepreneurial spirit. Like I couldn't do what I do at Highway as well as our team does if I hadn't spent that time at Sonar.
No,
like that year that we went through, and I didn't know what category creation was before I met you. You're introducing all. I'm like, what the hell is this guy talking about? I'm a freight broker.
Yeah.
And so, congratulations on just democratizing freight innovation. Nobody talked about it before FreightWaves.
It's interesting because hosting this event in Chattanooga and seeing sort of the iterations, and even doing the Freight Tech Awards, which I think are a chance to sort of see what is sort of top of mind of people when they're thinking about companies that are doing innovative things. And it's interesting how that cycles. We saw a couple more autonomous companies that were on there, the telematics companies, the visibility companies. You guys are in freight fraud.
Yep.
And it's interesting to play that, to be an observer. And I think it's interesting because I consider this as much of a hobby for me, like this industry.
Because you love it.
I grew up in it. I literally have diesel in my blood. And so for me, it's much as a hobby, and I get to be an observer. And I just think I have the best job in the industry because while I run a business, I also get to look at the innovations that people are doing, the storylines, and not have to worry about what it takes to build a workflow business, to actually solve that problem. We solve it through data, we solve it through information, but we're not actually building the application layers that actually solve some of the problems, one of which is the most pervasive problem, which is fraud. And I said this earlier when we announced the Freight Tech Awards. It was no surprise that Highway was going to be in the top 5. I didn't know it until right before we walked out that you'd be number 1. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
But I think the circumstances of right time, right people, right product, right team, people and product team, and has enabled Highway to get where it's at.
Yeah.
And I think you guys deserve an enormous amount of credit for figuring out how to solve that problem. I want to now challenge you.
Yeah.
And because you've won this award 2 years in a row, the honeymoon is, the expectations on you guys are much greater.
Yeah.
The fraud problem is a never-ending arms race.
Yep.
The criminals, if I said this earlier, the innovative people in this industry
it's terrible.
are the bad actors.
Yep.
Because all they do is sit at home or sit in their whatever they're at and think about ways to screw everybody in this room.
That's correct.
Where do you go from here to solve those problems? Every single week I hear about a new type of crime.
Yeah.
And I knew you get hear about it.
Oh, absolutely.
But how do you solve for that and build onto what you've built?
Yeah. So I think it's a great question. And what I want everyone to know is Craig is a great interviewer. He asks tough questions, and we always want to be asked these tough questions. The thing we can't ever do philosophically is be like, okay, we did it. We're good. Fraud's done. For us, we've reorganized the business into 3 distinct business units: identity, load level compliance, and capacity. And so from the identity business, there is a team whose literal financial incentive is all built around fraud protection. So all that team does, their whole product focus, their whole development focus is on the Gretzky thing, trying to skate where the puck is going to be. And so it's constant all day long trying to figure out where the fraud vectors are moving. Because what worked yesterday may not work tomorrow. Well, and it changes instantaneously.
I go out and talk to a lot of people in this industry, and I think one of the things I have heard from some of the companies that implemented Highway is that they almost bought the application, they did buy the application. They were very protected, and perhaps it solved the problem short term. But the criminals figured out how to reverse engineer some of the things that you guys had built. And because perhaps they didn't do everything else that they should have done or continue to innovate, they were exposed.
Yeah.
And they were very upset by this because they actually felt, in a way, a sense of betrayal. How do you handle that when someone has the solution but also is faced with some type of fraud?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we do see some theft in our network, But I mean, the data compared to our customer base, we service almost 1,500 freight brokers now. We see millions of loads a day or a month, and the likelihood of theft is actually very low. The thing about a theft is it's so visceral. It feels so big, especially when you have a good run where you're moving several thousand loads a month, and all of a sudden you might lose 5 because you don't lose a load, you lose several.
Yeah, especially these organized. It's one thing to have a small crime, but these are organized criminals.
Yeah, and oftentimes it is an element of like direct theft. So now what we have to do is watch what is the pattern that shows that someone who we thought was a good actor is going to break bad, or an MC number change control. And sometimes the outcome that we have to own is did we do a good enough job training? Like are they aware of our product suite? Like oftentimes like we'll see a theft reported and our secure rate con delivery product would have solved that. Load lock would have solved it. So sometimes I think what we could do a better job of doing is saying, hey, it's going to constantly evolve. You can't just like buy an application and be like, okay, we're good now. One of the things Scott Cornell and I talked about this the other day is like if you're a freight broker and there's not somebody in your business, like you have a pricing person that like owns your fraud stack, like owns that product, owns that process, like that's a full-time job. That's not like the VP of operations also is the fraud guy.
No,
like, it's got to be a full-time thing.
I know one of the reasons that you're so successful and you guys have built this great model is because of Jordan, the founder of the company, spent time working at the bank, the Triumph, one of the biggest banks in the industry. And the banks have had to deal with this issue for fraud, a never-ending problem. The network gets smarter. In many ways, it gets more restrictive over time.
Yep.
One of the feedbacks that I hear on a pretty consistent basis among carriers is they are frustrated by highway.
Yeah.
Because you have made their life more difficult. You've made it more restrictive because you're having to identify bad actors. How do you balance the need of the drivers and the carriers with the more, because it feels like you can almost never be secure enough because of the bad actors, but also you have to allow for productivity and it's like my credit card getting declined when I'm overseas.
Yeah.
It's like the last thing I want is to have to call into an American customer service number that's closed. Bank. But my credit card doesn't work.
Yeah.
But it's the same problem.
Yeah. So it is, but I would say some of that, man, is largely anecdotal. And so one of the things we look at is our response time. We look at the tickets. We record these calls. And so for some carriers, they are frustrated it's restrictive. And for some of these carriers, they also do things that are incredibly problematic in terms of sharing credentials, doing things that are indicative of fraud patterns. What I would tell you is that there's a flip side of motor carriers that we've made their life a lot easier. They can log into digital ecosystem, brokers' digital experiences quicker. They get the freight that they want. They're not, if they get a secure rate con, they're not getting a fake rate confirmation from somebody impersonating a broker. So look, we hear it as well. A lot of it is anecdotal. Some of it's real. We have put carriers through a lot for 3 years. We have. We've had them take pictures of their face and connect their ELD because we had to. The fraud problem was so bad.
And it's more pervasive than ever.
Yeah. And now what we're learning is how to, banking is a really good analogy, Craig, because risk lives in a matrix.
Yeah.
And so we're learning how to apply that same methodology that came from banking and really all kind of like cyber risk, and know when to throttle that, know when to introduce the right amount of friction versus let things kind of run.
I mean, I spent 10 years in payments, and I can tell you the thing that kept me up at night was the fear of someone hacking the system.
Yeah.
Changing the card balances and all of a sudden losing 30. And this happened in my world. We were luckily too small, but $50 million overnight, like literally. The fraud problem is never going to go away.
Yeah.
It's pervasive. And like now the criminal syndicates have discovered how valuable freight is, and frankly, the lack of enforcement, and the authorities just don't care.
Yeah.
Particularly when it's overseas actors.
Yeah.
It just means that you guys have a much bigger role.
Yeah.
And responsibility in all of this to solve it.
Well, and the other thing I would say too, Craig, you've run hyper growth businesses, whether it was XD or Freight Waves, and anytime you have hyper growth, you just also get the pain of that, scaling your team, responding quickly. And so, I mean, man, we've been so successful in 3 years. Oh my God, we've only been doing this 3 years. Like there's still just so much.
It feels very early for you guys.
Yeah, and there's still so much to learn, and the criminals, it's gotten worse.
It's gotten exponentially worse.
It's like a war game.
By the way, I want to be very clear. That is not Highway's fault.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone to think that anyone should blame Highway for the crime problem.
Yeah. Thanks. Appreciate that.
I mean, it is in some ways the crime problem, because it is so pervasive.
Yeah.
Will continue to create demand for your business, and rightfully
Yeah.
so. It reminds me of the whole anti-terrorist thing. Is like you have to be right 100% of the time, but you have to be right once.
Yeah.
And the issue is that because this industry is very sloppy, as a general rule, it historically has, we're just unprepared.
And the other thing I would say too is if I have to send an apology video out to my customers, which I've done before, I would rather apologize for being overly restrictive than watching a bunch of freight get stolen. Like in the early days, the FMCSA data was like, it was a problem.
It's trash.
And so like,
I mean, if all of us should be looking at the FMCSA and the DOT and saying they have done a poor job. Now, in fairness to the FMCSA,
yeah,
it's not actually in their charter by Congress. Their job was to protect the safety, but to police the industry of bad actors was never part of their scope. And Matt Leffler's who here somewhere, he's right there, red jacket, would tell you the Chevron principle. I'm going to use some legal stuff we'll talk about in a minute. It's supposed to basically mean that the agencies can only do what they were in charge of by Congress. And the problem is that because the FBI has to go prosecute these bad actors and they're outside of U.S. jurisdiction, oftentimes overseas, that the consequences don't exist. And one thing I argued in an op-ed, which was incredibly polarizing, we'll say. I got a lot.
Not you. Never. Correct.
I got a lot of messages. Was that we should mandate that the carriers be owned by American. It's not because I have a problem with foreigners-owned companies.
Yeah.
It's that I have a problem with foreigners being outside this country and not having consequences if bad actions happen.
I would tell you that data supports your thesis.
I mean, I appreciate you saying that. I always like when
you do own a data business, so I think you would appreciate.
I do appreciate
data supports
the thesis. I don't always get that, but yes, thank you. I think that is the problem, and we need to change, but we're not here to solve that. You're not here to solve this.
Yeah.
I want to shift gears a bit because you guys rolled out your freight exchange. I've said FTX, and then I realized they committed fraud, and your job is to actually prevent fraud. So it's TFX.
Freudian slip.
Trusted Freight Exchange, the role is to create a marketplace which is based on your security.
Yes.
We talked about the frustrations that you cause motor carriers in your onboarding process. But to build a liquid marketplace, you need both sides.
Yes.
You need the carriers and you need the brokers.
Yep.
How do you navigate the desire to lock down, not frustrate the carriers, but get them to want to take freight out of the exchange?
That's a great question, and one I think we ask every day, multiple times a day. One of the main ways is to create liquidity for the carrier. So today, TFX is very early. It's a very early stage thing, and we're having to shift the paradigm a little bit away from like what it means to post and book freight. And the long-term idea is that when a carrier logs in, and it's basic exchange dynamics that you know well. You have producers and consumers, and they show up and they play by the rules, right? Just like what payments create. And if you can do that, and the carrier, you can geofence the origin, and you know when that carrier's picked up, you can underwrite that transaction and guarantee payment. And so that carrier can get an advance instantly. They can get paid instantly without any worry, without any invoicing cycle. And so the benefit to the carrier is to increase their liquidity, right? So if they show up and they play by the rules, they get their cargo policy, they don't double broker freight, it actually should be really fast for them. Because the experience, the vision of the experience is not that TFX is the marketplace of record, but that single sign-on experience, that sign in with Highway button puts them right into Hunt or Echo or whoever adopts it. And so it's a secure the way that you and I sign in with Google or Facebook or anything else. That was always the founding vision of Highway for Jordan, was like, we need to go create the single sign-on for the industry. Product market fit was harder on that. I was like, hey, how about we just say your loads won't get stolen? How about we just say that? We'll start there.
I remember when he first said it, I was like, oh, that seems cool.
Yeah.
Sort of like scheduling.
Yeah.
There's Tom Prasad.
Yeah.
It was boring.
Yeah. Yeah.
It felt that way at first.
Yeah.
Now you realize what he actually is trying to accomplish.
And so that's why we say it all starts with identity. And so if you can evangelize this concept and you can make the friction better and you can ease the pain of the carrier, then the goal is to not charge the carrier. Like, it's free for a carrier. Carrier plays by the rules, like TFX is free. Brokers pay the bills. We don't sell to shippers. We don't sell to carriers. We sell to brokers. And yeah, it increases the liquidity for the carrier. The other thing too is like the loads are real. There's no ghost postings. There's no can gets. It's just very, very different. It's a different model.
Different set of rules.
Yeah, different set of rules.
So,
well, there are rules.
I'm sorry?
There are rules.
Well, that's a refreshing thing. Doesn't typically exist.
Yeah.
The one of the counter arguments to that is the more restrictive it gets, the less liquidity you can get. How are you guys planning to build a marketplace that is both liquid and we'll call it trusted?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you taught me a lot about marketing when we worked together. And so when we look at top of funnel, like if you just apply marketing concepts, you can have a big top of funnel with no conversion, or you can have the right funnel with the right conversion. Talked to a customer right before I came in here. They're about a $25 million business, and they do mostly like high value stuff. Government, DoD, they do not use a load board anymore. They cover 100% of their freight in TFX. So I was like, it's not even ready yet. You guys do that? Like, this is amazing. Like, thanks for, can I say that when I talk to Craig? But so it's a shift. Like they don't need more carriers. They need the right carriers. And so it's not going to have the most carriers, Craig. It's just not. But what we believe is if you attract the right ones, like Highways was founded on like these three principles. One, you reduce the total surface area of risk. That's the first goal. Like just, you got to close down the surface area. Make our brokers the hardest target and divide the world between good guys and bad guys. And so if you close down the surface area of risk, you now have a safe space where you can start reducing friction, but you got to turn the noise down first. And so big fan of Adam Wingfield that works with you guys now. And he's probably the best in the industry at evangelizing like the small, I think you guys even have a product on that, right?
Yeah, we have the playbook, which is helping carriers become.
Yeah, and so if we can help small carriers, which are going to continue to get the long tail of that, irregular out carrier is going to get longer. If we can help them build velocity, right, and reduce the amount of noise, I think we can help them make more money.
Look, I think it's, I love, and I've said I was very critical of DAT, the incumbent, for a while ignored the fraud problem.
Yeah.
And they allowed this stuff to proliferate or didn't do anything about it. And I think the fact that enabled it in some ways, the fact that you guys have taken that as a core thesis is absolutely admirable. The challenge I'll say, or a question I would have for you is, you're going up against the most ruthless, which we get in a few minutes to hear from the other side.
Absolutely are.
Rebuttal. The most ruthless competitor, entrenched company in this space.
Yep.
Perhaps the best capitalized.
Oh,
The Roper.
Yep.
And their entire business is this liquid marketplace. They're clearly the number one player.
Yep.
I think Truck Stop is historically be the number two player. They're still in that spot. The question for you guys is, how do you deal with the fraud problem here that's so pervasive and needs an enormous amount of attention? And at the same side, try to build a liquid marketplace over here with an entrenched competitor that wants to throw billions of dollars to ensure that you do not take share from their business.
I think the market will decide that, but I think the more important thing is, how do we stay true to our core, which is the identity piece. And so the thing that I want the market to understand is that nothing we do or desire to do works if the core of our business, the identity piece, breaks down. So when we think about our identity business, when we think about load level compliance, when we think about capacity, all of it flows from identity. And so when we first came to market here in 2022, we said it all starts with carrier identity. It starts with answering the question of who's hauling your freight. I think we'll play in a different part of the market. I don't want to go against DAT in their core. Again, like if you taught me anything, it's like, don't go up against Category King. Like,
I try to compete against DAT.
They're going to own 75% of it, right? And so we want to play in a different part of the market. And
DAT is not weak. And that is the difference in fraud. DAT is not weak.
Right.
In their core market, they have a lot of weaknesses, but their core market, their marketplace, they're not weak at all. In fact, they're incredibly strong. And we experienced this at Sonar. The moment they realized and cared that we were picking off share, became a very different game. You guys own the fraud business, if you will. I do wonder as an observer, and I think this is a fascinating conversation, we only have 20 seconds to talk about, is whether or not you can build the liquid marketplace fighting this entrenched competitor and protect the industry from fraud and not get distracted. Now, that's something that none of us in this room will know until this plays out.
Yeah, and I think it's an important challenge. You should continue doing it. Let's go over 2 seconds. The core thing that I think I want brokers to hear from us is we want to make the broker the point. So if you look at the large brokers, like look at C.H. Robinson and their innovation, right? Like brokers want to increase the usage of their digital experience. They want to increase their monthly active users. They want to do things that all e-com businesses want to do. And the way the TFX is built is really to empower the broker to grow their own marketplace. You've covered the space long enough to know that only X% goes public anyway. And so the whole idea is to double down on that thesis, that thing that the broker wants to do, which is avoid and build their own networks and empower that part of the process. And I'm perfectly happy to let the load boards own the load board space.
Amazing. All right. Well, thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you, Craig.
Hopefully we'll see you back next year on the list. Tide 25, you got a lot to do.
No pressure, bro.
A lot to do between now and then.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.